Okay, I'll call to order meeting of the Wilsonville City Council work session on December 19th at 6:06 p.m. And we'll start with review of our agenda and items on consent. Do the councilors have any comments on that? Any other councilor comments or concerns? Okay, we'll move into our pre-council work session, and we do have a lot on the agenda. We're starting with Mr. Lorenzen talking about the survey results for the child care work and workforce survey.
Okay, thank you. I should be joined by Bridget Daisy if she's in the waiting room. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Fitzgerald and Council. My name is Matt Lorenzen. I'm the Economic Development Manager for the city, and I'm here to talk to you tonight, yes, about survey results, but more broadly about childcare. A workforce issue, as a workforce issue. As I just noted, I'm joined by Bridget Daisy. Is that right? There she is. And so I'd just like to allow her a few moments to introduce herself and talk just for a moment about the workforce partnership and how you work together with cities and what type of issues the workforce partnership is concerned about more broadly and more specifically nowadays.
In 30 seconds or less.
Yes, please.
Good evening, council members. My name is Bridget Daisy, she, her pronouns. I'm the Executive Director of Clackamas Workforce Partnership, as Matt shared, and have been since 2014. I have a long history in workforce development in Clackamas County. The local workforce board oversees the public workforce system, in our case, WorkSource Oregon Clackamas, which is a partnership of many organizations, government, community-based nonprofits, education partners, and the private sector, really to get our arms around the system and ensure we're moving in the same direction. As you are aware, there are a number of economic and workforce challenges that we're all facing right now across multiple industries. And one of those prohibiting factors of full recovery from this last couple of years pandemic and recession is childcare and the care industry as a whole. Clackamas Workforce Partnership has identified several industries that include manufacturing, healthcare, construction, technology, and early care and education as key economic drivers to our community. It is of great importance to CWP to engage you all on this conversation. I really appreciate Matt bringing this conversation to you tonight.
Thanks, Bridget. So, yes, as the title of the presentation notes, we really want to discuss childcare not as a social issue or as an inconvenience to families due to inaffordability or inaccessibility, but as truly an economic issue and a workforce issue that needs addressed. Clackamas County is defined as a child care desert, and what that means is that less than 33% of children can be accommodated within the system due to availability of slots within their given community. What that means at the county level is that there are approximately 27,000 children ages 0 to 5, birth to 5, and only 26.5% of those children can be accommodated. At the Wilsonville level, you can see that the picture looks quite similar, slightly better, but we'll discuss in just a moment that some of the slots that are being counted in this accounting here are coming offline, unfortunately, and so these percentages will decrease. Because Wilsonville and more broadly the county is a child care desert, there are families and potential members of the workforce that are foregoing opportunities for workforce participation and upskilling, training, education opportunities as well. And so, as one commentator put it, this state of childcare across the country really hurts parents, hurts the economy, hurts childcare providers, and ultimately hurts children. So how did we get here? I want to cover the context somewhat quickly because I feel it's important to understand. So it's really kind of a lesson in Economics 101, but of course it's a little bit more nuanced and complex than that, but we can still understand it through the lens of some Econ 101. If we look at a simple supply and demand curve in a regular market for any given good, you can see that the market finds an equilibrium where a relatively reasonable amount of consumers can consume the product at a price that they find acceptable. There are businesses staying in business, and so this darkened triangle that you see within the graph is essentially the size of the economy for whatever good this chart may represent. What we find with childcare is that due to decreased supply, that economic triangle is reduced significantly, and so the number of participants is reduced significantly. There are families that have unmet needs, and there are businesses that would like to do business but can't. And we can talk about what is affecting this supply shortage a little bit without getting too far into the weeds. Some of it has to do with the market for labor in the market, in the economy of 2022 and going into 23. It's a little unique, but we don't expect it to change anytime soon. What's happening now is that due to inflation, due to other economic conditions, wages are rising, and this is usually a good thing, and I'm not going to say it's bad, but what's happening here is that childcare businesses are unable to compete with the wages that other employers are offering, and so unable to hire and retain the employees they need to operate their businesses. And when these businesses can't hire, they can't enroll students. When they don't enroll students, they don't have revenue. When they don't have revenue, they can't cover their costs, and you see where this is headed. So as a case study that I'd like to spend just a moment on, you may be familiar with the YMCA CDC, which is located at the point located on the aerial view here on Main Street, just a hop, skip, and a jump from where we sit today. The YMCA Child Development Center has closed for the reasons that essentially I just listed: an inability to hire and retain staff, which has then affected their ability to enroll students. They can't meet their obligations, and so have made the difficult decision to close that facility. So we can talk about this in theoretical terms, but here's a very concrete example within our own community that adds a level of urgency to this conversation. Finally, again, when we get back to Econ 101, we can also frame the conversation within these two concepts of a public good versus a private good. As I indicated in my memo, a private good is something like a piece of pizza. Not to be too flippant about this serious topic, but I can purchase a pizza and enjoy it, and it doesn't affect anyone else. It's private good. A public good is something like education, where without broad public participation in that system, that good, due to the cost of supplying it, is so great, only a few consumers are able to participate. And so what we find with childcare in today's economy is that it's essentially, by almost all characteristics, a public good, but we're treating it as a private good. And so again, that chart ends up looking the way we saw, with high prices and a very small amount of participants on both the supplier and the demand side. Before bringing this issue to you, we wanted to make sure we had some local level data to substantiate these trends that we're trying to speak to tonight. And so I've provided lengthy, detailed survey results from a survey that we designed and distributed this summer. You can find that in your packet, but I would just like to summarize our findings here. We had a pretty good rate of response, 121 highly educated group of folks that responded, which is, I suppose, just an interesting point, but it might also indicate that there are folks that didn't respond to this survey who may have even more dire needs than those that responded here. 2/3 of those responding indicated that they have childcare needs not being met. Primarily, that's in the areas of after-school care and full-time care. Those are the leading needs. And this was striking for me. Over 50% of those that responded are paying more than $1,000 per month, and 16% are paying more than $2,000 per month for the care of their children. We allowed respondents an opportunity to respond in free form, and there were some themes that came out. We prompted them to say, if I had reliable and affordable childcare, I would be able to. And you can see some of the themes that came forward. I have some quotations here, but in the name of time, I think we'll go ahead and move through those. This will be provided in the meeting minutes, and you can review those later if you'd like. But these quotations come also from the detailed results, which are in your packet. We also asked, what's been your experience in obtaining childcare near where you live or work? And again, these themes came forward. Again, quotations that we'll move through. We also designed and distributed a separate survey to employers. Not as great of a response rate there, but still some very indicative information. They identified childcare as something that makes it difficult to hire and retain employees. Their employees are taking longer leaves of absence due to childcare difficulties, and 7 out of the 8 respondents indicated that they feel that issues around the issue of childcare affect the productivity of their business. So here's where I would invite Bridget back into the conversation. She and the Clackamas Workforce Partnership has been doing some very important work throughout Clackamas County. And I'll invite you, Bridget, to say a little bit about what the Clackamas Child Care for All Coalition is doing and what you feel the council maybe ought to consider in light of the information I just shared.
Thank you, Matt. In fall of 2021, after several years of working on this issue with our partners at the Education Service District and the Child Care Resource and Referral, as well as the Early Learning Hub, which is overseen by Clackamas County and their Health, Housing, and Human Services Department in Children, Family, and Community Connections. With our partners at Clackamas County and the Education Service District, we launched the Child Care for All Task Force in the fall of 2021 with the scope of reviewing for ages 6 weeks to age 12, what would it cost for Clackamas County to institute universal child care. One of the reasons that we did this besides the fact that Clackamas County is a child care desert, is because in Multnomah County, they launched Preschool for All. And then in Washington County, they were exploring Preschool for All. And with Preschool for All, we knew we were going to lose qualified teachers in the Clackamas County area because they were going to make more money and have better benefits in Multnomah County as a result of that bond measure passing. So we wanted to explore that locally. The preschool is not our number one issue. It certainly is an issue in Clackamas County. 1 in 3, for every 1 slot, there are 3 children that are vying for it, but we have a higher ratio for infant and toddler care and school-age children. 1 in 7 school-age children are vying for each slot. spots, and for every 12 infants and toddlers, they're vying for 1 spot. And so there is some tremendous need for us to think about childcare as the whole age group, and think about like, what are solutions. So the task force began contracting with Miranda McLeod, who helped to undergo a study with the task force that again looked at the problem, but also created a formula to figure out what the true cost would be of universal care. Now that's a very high number, and I'm not going to alarm you with what that number is at this time, but the study is really meant to point us in the direction of what recommendations can we start to put in play as early as this next year. What does action look like in our community? And the coalition is a combination of cities, the county, private sector, nonprofit sector, education partners. It's a pretty robust group of individuals that care about childcare so much that they're willing to give up some of their work hours and evenings to try to help address it here locally. The city of Wilsonville, Clackamas County is not going to solve this problem on its own. This is really going to take, it's an all hands on deck at all levels. The state, we need solutions from our state of Oregon, we need solutions from our federal government, but that's not to say that the city and the county can't do a lot to support local businesses and families. And so some of those asks tonight that I'd like to put out to the city council to consider. One is to support the coalition's work. As we move into more action, we're going to need to walk alongside of our city partners to explore what policy shifts might need to be put into action or changed at the policy level, and as well as any fee structures that might be inhibiting growth for our local businesses, sharing information about the coalition with the broader community, and any potential financial support that the city could offer child care providers and families while we continue to seek out additional solutions at the state and federal level. Another area that I think that the city could dig into this is to prioritize child care in your upcoming goal setting session. By identifying child care as a priority issue, like your peers in Oregon City did, it will allow you to communicate with the rest of your city that you care about this issue and care about things that are impacting not just their wallets and bank accounts, but their family and their ability to take care of their children. And the third area that we'd like to ask for your support is around advocacy. Advocacy, again, at the state and federal level, as well as at the county level, and with other cities and with the private sector. It still takes a village to raise a child, and what's really happened is that we have a lot of families who are in dire need for something with a business model that doesn't work. The child care industry is built on the backs of working families, and it's not sustainable. So I think that there's a great deal that each and every one of us can do, and I would appeal to the city council and to dig deeper into this issue and see how we can help support each other and support our working families and businesses so that we can identify what those practical solutions could be.
Thanks, Bridget. So on that note, I think we have about 4 or 5 minutes remaining to have discussion and questions.
Well, thank you for that presentation. And the study. I mean, I think all of the council probably read all these comments. And I started kind of reading about some other cities too, and I'm eager to learn more about what Clackamas County might think of and what cities could think of in terms of here in Wilsonville, what can we do to make our city a real and even more enviable place to work by having really good child care? And I It's pretty evident that the pay in the industry isn't really attracting an employment base that sustains this model. We just saw that. So anyway, other comments? Councilor Leahy.
You go ahead, because you're a parent, and then I'll go ahead as a child
We'll
development.
hear from Council President Ockervall.
Thank you. I pushed the wrong button. There we go. Thank you, and thank you for the presentation and the information in our packet. And I'd say that the information in our packet was really well written too, to present this, not just the facts, but kind of teasing out what it all means. I'm struck. Yes, I can speak as a parent that yes, this is a big issue, but I think we all recognize that it's a big issue. Not just parents recognize that it's a big issue. Everyone does. But it doesn't feel like anybody's really taken this issue yet, or it's not. It's not going to be solved by one group or one entity or one level of government or one, something. I think your comment about that this is an all hands on deck situation is right there. It's not going to be solved by any one person, and so it feels like we all need to do something, and we all need to coordinate that something too. So I hope that, having this great foundation of data and specific data for our city now too, I hope that we can think about some specific goals for Wilsonville and how we can support this work going forward, and perhaps, in the next few months leading up to our council goal session, we can shift out some ideas that we can all discuss together at that point, and that I hope the rest of the council would also see the value in that. So I think this is a good place for us to be in and good information to be armed with, and I hope that we can improve the situation, because it has lasting effects, not just for our current situation of working the most immediate time period when, children are young and small, but also thinking about when those kids grow up, what experiences did they have and benefit from in their early years that shapes what kind of a workforce they will be able to be when they grow up too, and what they will be prepared to do, and values that they will hold going forward. I would like to reflect that we value them and we value taking care of our community. This is part of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Lehan.
Yes, well, what can I say? I got my first degree in early childhood education in, I think, 1972. I got my bachelor's in 1975 from a very prestigious school in Southern California. I worked for many years in child development as director and teacher, and I've worked in some of the best facilities around here, as I said, Mentor Graphics and Nike's Child Development Center in Beaverton. It didn't work in the 70s. It didn't work in the 80s. It still doesn't work. It won't work without massive public subsidy. There is no other advocacy. There are no efficiencies. That's what's missing in your economic model. Almost every other thing, economic thing like the pizza and whatnot, there are efficiencies to be squeezed out of it, but there aren't in childcare. 85, what would you say as an administrator, 85% or more of the cost is wages. And you can't, there are laws for what your ratios, staff to child ratios are. The younger they are, it's a tremendous, if you're talking infants, you need 2 adults for just about every 2 infants. And especially if you're talking about a 10-hour day, that's a double shift of these adults. There's no gazinta here. It will never work. It will never pay for itself. It never can cover its cost without massive public subsidy. The same as grade school can't. And that's a short day. This is a long, long day. So, I've been in lots of things for decades regarding childcare. It never improves. I don't know what to say. You could offer free space. The city could offer free land for whatever, for childcare. If you can't pay those wages, it doesn't matter because you can't cover it. And so I hate to be a downer here, but we could advocate all we want, but and talk about it. I've been talking about it since the 70s, and without the money behind it, it's not going to change. We'd just keep patting ourselves on the back for trying.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think there's one thing we might have all, maybe somebody said this, but if you did charge what it costs to have the qualified person, you would have to charge so much to the parents that most of them are better off staying home. So that is where it comes full circle, and your workforce just got smaller.
Exactly, because it's like any other caregiver. We're frequently, we'd be better off paying a family member to be the caregiver for an elderly person or a person with dementia than we would be to be putting them in a facility. Would we be better off to pay the mother to stay home is the question you have to ask, because that child care facility with that level of staffing that's required is beyond, unless the mother is I should say the parent, because obviously there's 2 parents here in most cases, but they have to be making $100,000 or more before they could possibly make it pencil. And so I don't know. There's no gazinta. That's what I mean to say.
No magic wand? Well,
it doesn't gazinta.
We hope that Ms. Daisy and her crew and her committees and the county and the state and the feds and everybody can do something different. Councilor West, do you have anything to add?
Debbie Downer.
I listened to the presentation and there's no silver bullet. There's another one for us, the analogy. But I guess I just reflect on my own childhood, my experience as a parent with my son, and God, how do we get through it, right? My husband worked a full-time job. When we first got Jay, adopted Jay, then I was a full-time student and at the library or at school all the time, and then I was working as a nurse. And I guess we were blessed enough to have family, extended chosen family, and people where we would just, as a community, figure it out. I got your kids after school Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You have my kids these days after school. And as a community, we just became like aunts and uncles to other people's kids, and theirs to mine, and we got through some of this. I'm blessed to have awesome parents that are able to jump in and help too. So Of course, that's not the reality, right? That's just not the reality. A lot of people do have that reality. That's probably why, even though we may be in a desert, I'm assuming, what you guys would call a childcare desert, we still assume that there's still some core nuclear family units and neighbors and friends and allies loving each other and their children and making it happen. Ultimately, ideally, maybe this is not me speaking to reality. That's how we fix this problem, is that we as a community stand up and take care of each other. Gosh, the government just can't fix everything, and there's not enough tax dollars to do it. And so I don't know, like if you look as you plan this, I don't know if the city and local leaders can somehow work with other community members to help create these networks where people can help each other and figure out who's and what their needs are without being wildly expensive. Maybe I'm being naive, but it's a big issue, and for a lot of people, they don't have other resources. So I don't know, it's a tough one, and hopefully we can find some solutions for it.
Thank you. And I want to hear from Councilor Linville also, and I should have said this earlier, but I do have 2 more items on this session, but we have time.
I'll be quick. Thank you, Bridget, for joining us, and thank you, Matt, for both the report and for the presentation. I also have some experience working in early childhood ed, not as a provider, but as an administrator of a NIAC accredited child development learning lab on a college campus. And we offered childcare for both our employees and our students, but the waiting list was long. I think your comments at the beginning of your report in terms of one of the first steps is to have this brought to our consciousness, and so I appreciate that. I think it's timely in terms of our goal setting. I'm not certain what strategies we could do, but certainly partnering with the coalition is one that we would like to keep out there, and I know, Matt, you will continue, and Council President Ockervall also will continue working and bringing those issues to us. I think it's notable that of the 8 employer respondents, that 7 of them stated that childcare was an issue in their individual productivity for their organizations. And these are not small organizations. Those, when you talk about 100 employees, those are significant. So I think if we can continue to keep this in the forefront for ourselves, that there may be opportunities of helping some of our employers as they address some of the issues. I think globally, trying to help on the other end may be a larger bite for us, but it may be some things that we could do on the employer end that would help with the situation. So thank you very much, both of you, for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you.
Thank you. So anything else with the presentation?
No, and I am mindful of the time. I think if I had one concluding thought, it would just be that I think Bridget, as well as I understand, and we've stated it all, I think that this issue is not solvable at the local level, but I don't know that necessarily means that we need to resign ourselves to doing nothing. And so we'd just like to engage you in a conversation about what we can do, even if it's incrementally helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that will bring us to the Wilsonville South Metro Area Rapid Regional Transit, otherwise known as SMART, Annual Rider Survey results. And as they get that presentation set up, we are pretty crunched here, try to end about 7 if we can. And we have one more presentation after this, the Canyon Creek Beckman intersection design update. But we want to hear all the material.
All right, great. They keep moving us, so.
Okay.
I was at a restaurant once, they kept. All right. right, good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Dwight Brashear, the Transit Director for South Metro Area Regional Transit, also known as SMART. I'm joined this evening by Ann McCracken, who is our Transit Management Analyst. It's a long title there. If I could just take a moment to acknowledge Councilor West and Councilor Lehan for their support of SMART. Through that support, you have made SMART one of the top transit agencies in the country. And so on this, your last council meeting, I thank you for that. And if I may paraphrase the words of Shakespeare in As You Like It, he talked about the entire world being a stage and each of us must play our part. And some of us, our role includes our entrance and, of course, our exits. But there are those individuals that are selected, he said, to play multiple parts. And as I think of Councilor Lehan and Councilor West, what you have ahead of you, and what Councilor Lehan has done, you have played your roles to perfection. So on behalf of the entire SMART team and fleet team, we thank you. With that, I will turn it over to Ann, and she will share some interesting data with you.
Thank you, Dwight.
You're welcome.
Mayor Fitzgerald and members of the council, thank you for this opportunity to share some information about our most recent onboard survey. We conducted this survey on board September this year, and so we picked a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and a Saturday, and our goal was to cover each trip once. Because of lower ridership, we only got about half of the respondents that we did in previous years. We also conducted onboard surveys in 2017, 2018, and 2019. 2017, 2018 were the onboard demographic surveys, and then the 2019 was rider satisfaction. So we had approximately 228 surveys completed. 13 of them were in Spanish. And there were no significant changes, no big surprises from what we found in 2017 and 2018. And what we're doing is every year an onboard survey, and we're going to alternate years between a demographic survey and a rider satisfaction survey. So next year is our rider satisfaction survey. Who's riding SMART? So one interesting thing about this year is it was a little bit more male compared to female. Usually in previous surveys it was about 50-50. This year we had a larger percentage of males riding and responding to our survey. Almost half were between the ages of 30 to 65. And a third of respondents said that their annual income was below $10,000 per year. And half said that they identify as Caucasian. And then the next category was Latino Hispanic. And like other surveys, 40% of respondents said they do not have a working vehicle in their household. Now, some other characteristics about folks that ride our survey or ride our service is that high percentage of folks that ride it frequently. So they're riding it almost every day, every week. So that was 75% of the respondents. And 70% said that they would walk to get to the stop before they board a SMART bus. And half said they were coming from home. And then on the other side, 40% said they were going to work. So it's good to see that this is used for work and for home and also a little bit for school. And then, like when they walked to board the bus, 70% said that they would walk to get to their final destination once they get off the SMART bus. And as you can tell, another question indicated that about 80% of our riders were local. So they weren't going on to Salem or Tualatin or Canby. And this might be a little bit different this year because normally in previous surveys on the Route 1X that goes between here and Salem, that used to have an incredibly high ridership. And because of COVID and offices being closed down and so forth, we're not getting a lot of ridership yet on that route. Other things we found when people asked why they ride SMART, 62% said they don't own a vehicle, which goes with the 40% saying they don't have a working vehicle in their household. They also indicated that they chose to ride because of the convenience and the less stress. Now, one thing about this question is people were allowed to check numerous responses. So that's why we're getting more than 100% if you add everything up. And then we asked, what would you do if you didn't have this service? How would you make your trip? And almost half said they would walk. And then 18% said they wouldn't make this trip. So this is a lifeline for these folks. And that's consistent with other surveys in the past. Now, I did a very brief summary of this. Are there any questions or comments?
Counselors?
I thought that was very illuminating.
Yes, thank you.
It was very brief, but that's surprisingly high numbers.
Yes.
Many of those things, so I'm very impressed.
Good.
I wondered if, I know that it was a higher percentage of males.
Yes.
But I wonder in raw numbers how that actually translated to previous years.
In previous years, it was about 50-50.
But that's percentage in a total, and I was wondering about in the actual numbers, because I didn't have the 18 and 19 right in front of me. My guess is that COVID has made a big difference in terms of just the ridership generally, because we have a lot of people who still are working from home that don't commute, but I wondered about that number of males. And I also understand that the greater number of respondents were on the 2X route. Is that correct?
Yes, because of the amount of demand for the 2X and the 4, a good percentage were on the 2X and the 4. But we tried to do a good job of covering all routes and all times of day. So we had some from 4 in the morning down to 8 o'clock at night, and then, of course, Saturday service. And those raw numbers, female was 73, and male was 139.
That's a difference.
And then we had about 5 who basically filled in the blank for alternatives to that.
Yeah, I just wonder how many males were in the previous year, like 19 and I can look that up because that data's available.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I wondered if that was really just an anomaly for this year, if it represented some other, that we generally have ridership is decreased in the female population generally anyway, for a number of reasons either.
I think that was the statistic that kind of surprised us.
Yeah.
Most of everything.
Yeah, it was.
I took the survey myself, and we had a temp agency that helped with it. And they didn't, I took it as a customer, because I am, and they thought I was a doctor or a lawyer or something. So I was very impressed, but.
Well, you look impressive, that.
Well,
Well, thank you.
thank you very much, and if we dug deeper, we might find out that our earlier discussion on childcare might have had an impact on the discrimination, the distinction there, because we have read in many studies that women have had to leave the workforce in greater numbers than have men during COVID because of those same things, so that may have something to do with it. Well, thank you very much, really appreciate that, and we'll go to our next item, which is the Canyon Creek-Beckman intersection design. Okay, sure.
All right, good evening,
not one of the
Mayor
check
Fitzgerald
boxes.
and council. My name is Zach Weigel, city engineer. And tonight we have the Canyon Creek Beckman intersection design. This is a project that's a component of the Beckman Road Corridor project. And the project team's fiercely working away on this, getting the design ready for this project. And you're going to start seeing a lot of progress on the Beckman Road Corridor here in the next couple of months. So we're pretty excited. For tonight, let's see. Okay, it's just lagging a little. All right. So tonight, for your consideration, the project team is recommending a roundabout design at the Canyon Creek Beckman Road intersection as part of this project. It does have an impact on the overall budget for the project, so we wanted to make sure we got your input before we proceed designing that roundabout. So as an existing condition, Beckman Road, Canyon Creek, it's a four-way stop now. You can see in this image here. We looked at both a traffic signal and a roundabout for improving capacity at this intersection long-term. Sorry. In comparison to either a roundabout or a traffic signal, really comparing the operations between the two, a roundabout does provide more capacity long-term, less delay. It meets our level of service requirements and has reduced vehicle storage length needs. So it also, either design, traffic signal, or roundabout, we can accommodate freight and emergency services and school needs. So looking at safety, I took this image from our traffic, our transportation performance study that we do every couple of years. And you can see from this image that that intersection is the highest crash intersection in Wilsonville. If you look at the study that was included with the packet, a signal is projected to increase crashes at this intersection, the number of crashes. So the benefits of a roundabout, you get a 30% reduction in total crashes, 60% reduction in fatal and injury crashes. The roundabout helps slow speeds through that intersection, so it will act as a nice neighborhood gateway. Right now, the speeds on Beckman are 40 miles per hour and on Canyon Creek 35. With the Beckman Road Corridor project, we're anticipating trying to get those speeds down to at least 30 miles per hour. So roundabout at that intersection will help with that. Cost, there is an initial increase in cost for a roundabout over a signal, but once you look at the life cycle cost, the roundabout is actually a lot less than a traffic signal. So when we look at life cycle, we're talking about maintenance costs, the costs associated with delay from vehicles, and then costs associated with crashes, property damages, and injury. So one thing I wanted to note about this is the replacement costs for a traffic signal or a roundabout aren't included in these numbers. So a traffic signal will last a lot longer than a roundabout will last a lot longer than a traffic signal. Traffic signal needs completely replaced about every 25 years. So that just shows that the life cycle cost for a roundabout is even better long-term. And then we looked at the construction funding available, and there is enough transportation system development charges that are available to pay for the roundabout. We did some public engagement early on in the project. We did some open houses at Popsicles in the Park, at the community block party. We did an open house with the school district, and strong preference for a roundabout over a traffic signal at the intersection. You can imagine we got a lot of comments about this intersection, about how people complain about people running the stop signs and going too quickly. We did a lot of outreach with the emergency services in the schools, and they are very supportive of a roundabout, especially in the Frog Pond East and South master plan. There's a number of roundabouts planned for that area, and this would go with those. And then we did property owner outreach to New Life Church on the corner. So we've been coordinating with them throughout design of the project, and they are supportive of a roundabout. And the design team is going to be working with them to mitigate any impacts to their parking lot as we move forward in design. So that's a quick summary. The staff recommendation is to proceed with the roundabout design, and unless there's any major concerns from council. Thank you.
Thank you. I see we've got 3 minutes until 7, and we did hear all the details. I'll just make my comment and ask each of the counselors to try to be very brief if you have comments. To me, if you look directly at the math alone, which isn't really the only one we want to look at with something as important as this kind of safety over many, it's going to be many generations. So I believe that the roundabout is definitely the way to go for all of the reasons you just described. Any other comments?
I have just one. I think our responsibility is certainly to be fiscally responsible, and I think the numbers pan out in the long term, even though it's more costly in the beginning. But I think we have a couple of other responsibilities, and those are livability and safety. And I think this project, going with a roundabout, addresses both of those. I think it's both. It's the attractiveness of having the roundabout and increasing safety in that pretty scary intersection. So, thank you.
It looks like we have a general, I don't hear anybody objecting, so I will thank you for your presentation, and we'll adjourn the work session, and we'll reconvene for our regular city council meeting. How much time do we need?
Probably 3 minutes.
2 or 3 minutes? How about 7:05? 7:05. Sorry for everyone who arrived 10 minutes ago, but just give us a little minute. Thank you. I will call to order a meeting of the Wilsonville City Council, Monday, December 19th at 7:09 p.m. And I would like to start by asking the city recorder to call the roll.
Councillor Linville.
Here.
Councillor West.
Here.
Council President Ockervall. Here. Councillor Lehan.
Here.
Mayor Fitzgerald.
Here. Let's please stand to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to ask for a motion on the following order of agenda, but I would like to propose an amendment that under the communications section of the agenda, we plan for a presentation about, from the building department, about demolition permit maps and historic documentation. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended as described?
Your Honor, I move to approve the order of agenda with that amendment.
Your Honor, I'll second.
The motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. It's good that we're all in agreement on that. That was close. So the next section of our agenda is councilor comments, liaison reports, and meeting announcements. And this is generally when our councilors report to each other in the community on specific business items related to official meetings they have gone to in representation of the city. And because we have an opportunity to really celebrate our outgoing councilors, Councilor Lehan and Councilor West, this will be a really short segment of the agenda. And so I will, and it's fine if everybody doesn't have have a report, because I will say that our outgoing councilors are going to have a chance to comment a little later, and so will the other councilors. But so to recap, at this point, I'd like to ask Council President Ockervall for any business updates for your council report.
Yeah, thank you. I do not have any report to make this evening. But we do get an opportunity later to make comment. Okay,
Absolutely.
Excellent. Then I'll wait until then. Thank you.
Councilor Lehan?
I have nothing at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilor Linville, any meeting updates and so forth?
I'll be brief. On December the 7th, I went with Mayor Asher from Aurora to a coffee in Salem to meet with legislators, and that was actually a really productive time, and it was an opportunity, I think, for us to talk to those legislators about our legislative agenda. Congresswoman Salinas was there, so it was even the opportunity to put a little bug in her ear about some of our priorities as well. And I attended on the 14th the C4 Metro Subcommittee meeting, and one of the things that I just want to point out is that there is on our website the opportunity for our citizens to take the ODOT survey. And it's related to tolling, and I don't want to be too confusing about what it is. I would just say if you would like an opportunity, one more opportunity to have input into the impacts of the tolling proposals, you just go to the website, click on the link that's there, and the more people we have responding, the more impact I think our concerns have. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Councilor Linville. I'm glad you brought that up, and the city staff made it super easy. It's the first thing you see when you open the website, so no searching required. So this is that. Any other comments now, Councilor West?
I have no comments.
Okay, we'll hear from you a little bit later. And so that brings us to the recognition of outgoing counselors Ben West and Charlotte Lehan. And it's, I'd like to start out by saying some comments about each of them and then ask them to, say a few words as they would like. And then, of course, each, for each counselor, I'd like you all to have a chance to comment as well. And then just so everybody knows how the flow of this is going to go, because you might have noticed the exciting cupcakes out in the hallway. So building up to the cupcakes, after our presentations, we're going to have a little plaque commemoration with both Counselor West and Counselor Lehan, and a short video, and then we'll have a reception. So I'm going to start with Counselor West, and when I think similar to all elected officials, when they come into office, each of us has had our time to have that first time opportunity. Counselor West came in with a lot of new ideas of how he could make an impact and things that he would like to get done. Obviously had a high interest in the field and had run for elected office previously to being elected to the council. Now, I was not on the council for your first 2 years on the city council because I had already left that first 4 years. And so we started working together 2 years later after I filed to run for mayor, and then you filed to run against me the next day.
That's true.
I do remember that. And so that made things interesting. And after the election, we knew that you'd have another 2 years on the city council, and I would begin the 4 years as mayor. And I think we've all had a good opportunity to learn how to hear ideas from each other and work together, and I'm really proud of that opportunity for us, and I hope for other people, because we can all use a lot more civil dialogue and listening to different viewpoints to make decisions. And I think this was a really good, rewarding experience in that regard. So where there's a will, there's a way. And we had a council retreat process right after we, kind of early in that first, the second half of your term when I joined. I'm just going to kind of reflect on that. And we mutually set 2-year council goals, which we have been working on for 2 years. And I was thinking both about those last 2 years and also your whole 4 years, because some of these things started before I was on the council. And the other councilors will probably mention something, but I know that one of the big developments during Councilor West's term was the passage of our equitable strategic housing plan. That was a big thing for Wilsonville, and I don't know that any other cities had done that at that time to that degree, and we're still referring to that. It's a big plan, gives us a lot of guideposts to work on some very, housing. We hear about it all the time, and we want to do the best job in Wilsonville, so that has really served us well. We also, during this 4 years, you were on the council, the council passed the Wilsonville Investment Now Tax Increment Financing Plan, which people can read about on the website to learn more about it. It's also a unique strategy that I don't think any other cities have, and it is credited for helping to attract Twist Bioscience, which was the largest economic development in the area in 2020 in the region, and it's bringing hundreds of family wage jobs to Wilsonville. So I appreciate you helping to work on that. And then another big one was the Frog Pond East and West Master Plan. All of those decisions are helping our city and people across the region. So thank you for that. And so now I'm thinking about Clackamas County, you going into being the Clackamas County Commissioner. And so I hope to work with you on some key things. So Councilor West already reached out and said that he'd like to meet in January, which will be great. There are some really important things about Wilsonville that we'd like to see supported. Clean, green, and safe community. We have really delved into our diversity, equity, and inclusion plans, and we'd like to see the county and city making even greater strides in that regard. And of course, helping with homelessness and some of the solutions that we can have a real part on with the county in that regard. And I think there's a lot of good that we can do with Clackamas County working together. Two other big things that I will say that I'd like to work with you on, and that is, one is transportation, that ODOT has identified that it's going to cost at least $500 million to solve the biggest, single most onerous cause of traffic congestion in Wilsonville, and that is the Boone Bridge. And so we will be looking to you to help us get a new and better bridge. So that's not asking too much, is it? And also protecting our rural reserves and our valuable traded sector. Agriculture continues to be very important to Wilsonville. And then we were just looking at the letter that Clackamas County sent Wilsonville a couple of weeks ago regarding the traffic signal at the 65th and Stafford Road interchange. Actually, they were responding to our Frog Pond master plan and responding to those elements of that plan that really interface with Clackamas County. And one of those is the Stafford Road 65th Avenue interchange. Wilsonville has identified $500,000 toward that. It's going to cost a lot more than that to fund the proposed traffic circle that Clackamas County has in their capital improvement plan. So we will be really wanting to work on that. So I think if you can just come through with all of those in the next year, that would be awesome. So thank you for your service, Ben West, and your ongoing commitment to our quality of life.
Thank you.
Would you?
Well, gosh, the work never ends, does it? My family loves this city. We moved here in 2014. We moved from North Portland, where I grew up, and my husband Paul's here. He grew up in Astoria, and we chose to raise our son here. God, we love it here. I just can't think of anywhere else I'd want to be than in Wilsonville. And it was so unlikely. We joke about it. Paul and I were like, well, gosh, we lived in urban Portland, and we had the swanky, cool restaurants around us, and, we could just pop on a bike and get anywhere so easily, and we're never moving to the suburbs. And then Paul was working with some of our dearest friends, and Villaball was under development, and they were like, well, come out here for a barbecue and bring Jay with you, and oh wait, let's go look at all the new houses being built. It's so exciting. So for weekend after weekend, we were being lobbied to move here. So it's their fault, I'm sorry. But they recruited us to come out here, and we felt like we already had a sense of community. An extended family already wanted us, and we started to put our roots down real deep. And we're not going anywhere. The work is just a little different, and we're going to keep advocating for Wilsonville, a more livable, clean, beautiful, excellent city, because that's the kind of city we all want to live in. I've learned so much in 4 years. So much. Some high points, some mistakes and stumbles along the way, but it's been a thrill the whole time. And I wouldn't trade one of those experiences out for a different one. I've seen this community come together in some of the most tragic, horrific times. And let's be honest, in the last 4 years, this community and other communities across this country have faced those types of things head on. I'd be hard pressed to find a community that did it better than Wilsonville. Just before 2020 and that awful year with the pandemic, the heat wave, the ice storm, what else did we face that year? I mean, I think I'm missing something, but all of it, right? The Armageddon in the distance. Villaball had a fire rage through it and ripped through our community and burned down homes. It looked like a war zone the next day. Just charcoal and scariness. But gosh, the community rallied. Businesses in our community came together and helped raise tens of thousands of dollars for victims. People came together and brought goods and things and collected those so people could that had lost everything could have blankets or clothes or underwear or socks and all the things that they would need, and toiletries and things like that. We saw people rally around one another in a way that really special communities do, because we take care of each other. That was a really beautiful moment. It was tough, but it was one of those moments where we rose to the occasion. I saw us do that over and over and over again, and I'm really proud to be one of you, and I still am. I'm going on to be a county commissioner. I'm excited. The work has already begun. I start January 1st, but a lot of the priorities of Clackamas County are also the priorities of Wilsonville, and for the county to be healthy and successful, Wilsonville has to be a leader, and those priorities also impact the county in a major way. So I look forward to continue to serve. I don't think there's a healthy Oregon without an excellent Clackamas County. In so many ways, we are the bellwether of the entire state on how things go. And I look forward to, in the next 4 years, representing all of you in just another capacity. I have the same cell phone number, I live in the same address, and I can't wait to get to work for you for the next 4 years.
Thank you. Councilors, any comments? Council President Ockervall.
Thank you. I can hear your excitement for where you're headed come January, and so I wish you the very best in that new endeavor. I thank you for all of the time that you've given in this role, and I also want to take a moment to thank your family, because it's one thing to sit up here and be a visible person that's contributing in the way that you have contributed, and it's another thing to be at home and supporting in a much less visible way. So thank you. And yes, again, just best wishes for this next stage.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Councilor Lehan.
Yes, well, I would say we have disagreed on a number of things, but we certainly have voted on the same side of way more things than not. And sometimes, there's not a person on here that I haven't been on the opposite side of voting on something or other. But on the important things, I think you have always come through. Having been in the county commission position before, and as well as city council, I will have to warn you that city council is way more fun.
I believe you.
Okay, wise words. Not sure what to do about that.
Hey, it's
You'll have
good-
to have
thanks,
fun
good advice,
otherwise. So
yep.
Councilor Linville.
Well, I was thinking this was going to be a roast, so I had all my,
Go for
I had
it.
all my comments already. But it's been great sitting next to you for the last couple of years. Probably a lot of people don't know that you and I get on the phone periodically, and sometimes we actually talk about city business, but
Yeah.
it usually ends up being an hour or more on the phone. So I'm just delighted in the work and the contribution that you've made here. But I also value your friendship, and your tenacity to get your master's done all the while. I do have sympathy for Paul and Jay as well. And I think, as he mentioned, it's difficult to run a campaign. It's hard on family. And I hope that your commission, county commission position will not be as hard on your family. But I have you on speed dial. And so I wish you the very best. and thank you for everything that you've done for Wilsonville and for the people that come to you looking for assistance, and you've always been open and available to them. So my best wishes to you.
Can I say one more quick thing?
Thank you, Councilor Linville. Go ahead.
So I just want to say one thing is, I can't believe I forgot to do this, but in politics, and it gets so contentious so quickly and all the time, but you can ask Paul, I value everybody on this council so much. The mayor said jokingly and not jokingly, we ran against each other in a campaign, but she has been an absolute pleasure and joy to work with and a collaborative partner in so many ways. That has been a joy. You've been a joy to work with. You've been a strong leader for the city, and you're a fantastic mayor.
Thank you. Really appreciate that.
Kristen Ackervall is the epitome of empathy and kindness. And when you need someone to just listen to you, she's talented at it, right? So, and it's not just she's doing it out of obligation, but she is hearing for your heart, and she leads that same way. Kristen, I have loved serving with you also. Probably ideologically, Councilor Lehan and I have not always seen eye to eye, but she also, I believe, loves this city, has the best interest for this city, and brings much wisdom to our community. I have often been in awe on how she's navigated tough situations, and have also been in one of the pleasures of my life to learn from you at times and serve with you, and even find that way to do it in a healthy way of disagreement. I think there's value in that. And then not last but not least, Joanne is like my aunt on the commission or the council.
I'm glad you said aunt, not grandma.
We're both nurses, so there are times where we will just have a conversation from this perspective of a nurse. Sometimes we might talk policy, we might talk about our dogs, we might talk about our family, but I trust you and value our relationship going forward also. And though life is busy and we don't always get to talk or see each other as much as maybe we'd like, I value your friendship also. So thank you for having the opportunity to serve with you. Brian, thank you so much for your leadership, the way you've led staff, the way that you've helped guide the vision of the city and take our vision and move it forward. Amanda, you're new-ish, new city attorney, and I have absolutely loved serving you. Your open door policy, the ability to hash ideas out, to give us good, strong, honest opinions and help guide us legally has been fantastic. And to the whole entire staff, you guys are amazing, talented people, and I've also loved working with you, and thank you for helping make us really good at what we do, so we can't do it without you. So with that, that's all I have to say, because we got a lot of things to do, but I wanted to thank everybody.
Thank you, Councilor West. So now we'll talk about City Councilor Charlotte Lehan, and this is not a roast. So Councilor Lehan has 30 years of public service experience to the greater Wilsonville community that I know about. There's probably more. So Charlotte started her time of public service in the 90s, and she helped form a nonprofit organization at that time called Friends of Goal 5. This is an organization that promoted the Oregon statewide planning goal for local governments to adopt programs that protect natural resources and conserve scenic, historic, and open space resources for present and future generations. So when you're walking around Wilsonville and thinking, gee, this sure does look different than other cities I've been in, that's one of the primary reasons. In 1991, Charlotte was appointed to the city council, and I happen to know that at that time, they had asked her, I think 2 or 3 times, there was no one else available or willing to do it, and she sent them away a couple times and said, well, if you can't find, if this other person will not do it, I will listen to you, and the appointment was made. And so at that time, then she won election as city councilor in 1992. She then went on to run for the position of mayor and won 3 consecutive terms over 12 years from 1997 to 2008. And after serving on the city council then for 17 years, she ran for and won the position of Clackamas County Commissioner. And for the last 2 years of her 4-year term on the Clackamas County Commission, she served as chair of the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners. So during this time, Charlotte served on the crucial Core 4 committee, which we call C4, which is the cities of Clackamas County, during the 2008 to 2010 Metro Urban Rural Review. No, this was a little different than C4.
Yes.
I think I'm conflating those two. It was the Core 4, and it was about the Metro Urban Rural Reserves land use designation process. And as the county commission chair, she was able to work with Multnomah and Washington counties and Metro to designate key urban reserves for future city growth. And we continue to talk about those today, and those are things that are in play as we look ahead throughout the whole region. Charlotte worked to protect significant agricultural lands as rural reserves that provide a 50-year time frame for protection from urbanization, thereby facilitating these local farmers' abilities in this area to make long-term investments to improve their agricultural operations, knowing that they can continue to farm. Their land is continued to be protected as an agricultural enterprise. And so, always seeking to serve her community, Charlotte ran again for city council and was elected to office in 2014 and re-elected to a second term in 2018. And if this was not enough public service, Charlotte serves on some other things, including the Oregon Commission on Historic Cemeteries and the Oregon Heritage Tree Commission. And locally, she's president of the Pleasant View Cemetery Association and volunteers with the Wilsonville Boones Ferry Historical Society. And by the way, you can learn more about some of these things at the Lehan lectures that are starting on January 3rd. You can see some posters for it out in the lobby. I really encourage you to go to that. Charlotte also served as the council liaison to the City Tourism Promotion Committee that was created in 2015. And for several years, she led Wilsonville history and geography presentation for 2nd and 3rd graders in our schools. So I'm sure that I didn't include all of the ways that she contributed, probably left out a couple dozen, but you get the idea. And during her 30 years of service to the greater Wilsonville community, I'm going to just go into a couple. This is a long period of time, so this is why I have to pull out a couple of major things. So
I want the cupcakes to,
she led our efforts to seek a long-term supply of domestic water from the Willamette River, and an executive at the Coca-Cola Bottling Company once said that Wilsonville water was among the best in the U.S. And she also led our efforts, which you can learn more about at the Lehan lectures, to site the Villebois Urban Village at the site of the old Dammish State Hospital, and to place the proposed Coffee Creek Correctional Facility in the place it is now in North Wilsonville. And there's a lot behind all of those things, and that all of that could have gone much differently. We wouldn't have even been able to have houses there if we didn't have the water treatment plant. So as I noted earlier, Charlotte helped to designate lands for both future urban development and to protect the key farmlands as urban reserves. So I really appreciate how you represent public service to our community and our state, Charlotte. And I will say, to recognize this, the city has arranged to dedicate in your honor a Willamette River viewing bench at Arrowhead Park located near the water treatment facility. And The bench is located at a new overlook that was built during the seismic resilience project this year at the water treatment plant. The site was specifically selected since it overlooks the Willamette and is located in a nice grove of trees. And we thought that was a great place to place the plaque at this little plaza that was built there. The plaque reads, "In honor of over 30 years of devoted service to the Wilsonville community, this bench is dedicated to Charlotte Lehan, former counselor, mayor, and county commissioner." So before I move on, you'll see this plaque soon, and I have a plaque for Councilor West, and I'd like to ask Councilor Lehan to say some comments.
Well, mine are really brief. Remember, I said I had few words. But I just want to say that I want to thank the city and the citizens of Wilsonville for the opportunities that I have had to participate in building this truly remarkable city. And of course, as has been said, also to thank my family for putting up with all of these activities, which got in the way of a lot of other things, and putting up with the various elections, which are, not that fun. I have played a major role in a few things that the mayor mentioned, and a minor role in many things. And most of it, but certainly not all of it, but most of it has been fun and also inspiring. Like I say, way more fun than at the county. A city is, I always say that a city is never finished, so the opportunities continue for improvement, and with that, we invite more citizen participation, more staff participation in this process going forward. As for me personally, I look forward to continuing my deep dive into local history, including how Wilsonville's history is similar and how it is quite different from some of our neighboring cities. But I won't give that away because there's this lecture series coming up, Wilsonville has been my home for many generations, and I will always find ways to be engaged in some manner or another. This council, as I said, has been a very good one to work with. They are all very intelligent and committed to the work. My only regret right now in stepping away from this council is not having the opportunity to work with the new incoming city council, which I have to say I think has the greatest potential of any council I have served with since I first came on in 1991. Because when I came on, I knew from nothing, and the new council, when they are seated, will be, there is not a neophyte amongst them. They are the remaining ones and the new ones coming on have far more knowledge and experience in urban issues and urban management than I ever did. They are all professionals, and they all have the city's best interests at heart. So I look forward to this being a great time going forward for Wilsonville. And let's see. And now I've run out of things to say because I'm thinking about those cupcakes.
All right.
So thank you again. And
Well, thank you, Councilor Lehan. And I know we want to get to the cupcakes, but I do want to give the councilors a chance to comment, and I'll start with Council President Ockervall.
Thank you. I want to express my thanks, my deep gratitude. We have sat next to each other for 6 years, twice a month for a couple hours each meeting. So you feel like you get to know somebody over that period of time. And I think you probably all saw the Boone's Ferry Messenger issue. When I was reading it in the center on page 5, good job, Bill, by the way, on the issue here. But You know, he pulled out the counselor comments from 1991 when Counselor Lehan was first elected. And in the final paragraph, I have to quote it. Because when I read it, I felt chills. It was, the line is the decisions, this is what Counselor Lehan wrote in 1991. The decisions we make may benefit us now, but it's the legacy we leave for those who follow that is most important. And I look forward to making a positive contribution toward that future. And the reason that it was so impactful to me is because she has done exactly that. It's a great quote, first of all, but she's actually lived it too, over a couple decades. So, you know, I just have such appreciation for all of the work that you've done. You know, I think it's one thing to gain attention over time, and it's another thing to gain respect. And you've heard already from comments on council how much respect you have from other members on this council. So deep appreciation.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Linville.
Well,
I never sat next to you.
no, not very many. I hear you periodically talking about how old you are and how you've been around for a long time and whatever. Few people really know I'm older than you are.
I know that.
But I didn't start my career in this work in 1991, and you were probably barely in your 40s, I mean, early, way early. What a thing for someone of that age to take this kind of a career on. And the footprint that you've left, we were in Wilsonville in 1991, when you came on, we were about a population of 7,600 people. 20,000 more now than that time. And your footprint and your touch is all over this city. And I think the thing, beyond being just amazed every time from the perspective from which you speak, is that your knowledge of this community is something that we can't replace. We can't even get to that point. And so from my perspective, I'm going to miss that. Don't be surprised when I call you, and say, hey, Charlotte, what do you think about this? It's been just an honor to work with you and to get to know you. I love to talk about your chickens, and I know you'll have a little bit of time now to do other things. I'm delighted that you were willing to take on the Willamette Falls Locks Authority. It's a big job. And I think our community is going to miss having the depth of knowledge that you bring to this council. And it's a big hole, and we can't fill it. But we wish you the very, very best and a little extra time. So thank you.
Councilor West.
In 1991, I was a 7th grader. And now I live in a home in a neighborhood that wouldn't exist without your advocacy. 3 of us here do. And so and that quote says it beautifully, is that you sowed seeds that have now benefited multiple generations of people that lived in the county or Wilsonville or probably even in the region. And your family, like you, have shared, and it's such an amazing story, has been here for so many generations, that you just continue to carry a legacy on from your forefathers that continue to make this such a wonderful place to live. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate you. It really has been an honor to learn from you, to serve with you, and Wilsonville's lucky to have you be their advocate and to serve them publicly. And I'm sure that we're going to continue to see you do great things going forward. So thank you for your service, and it's been an honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now I would like to ask Councillor West and Councillor Lehan to come to the podium.
You want to do the video first?
Oh, you want to do the video first? Okay, video first. Or, very nice, thank you. All right, let's.
Charlotte, I'm going to say one more thing. If we ever get that 5-story building downtown that looks out over the river, I'm going to advocate to get your bench moved up there.
On the roof.
Yeah, with a rooftop garden.
Over here? Sure.
What are we doing? Now what's it?
Over here, Mayor? You want to do Ben?
I'll take this out of the plastic.
Ben first, and then we'll do start. Yeah. We're supposed to be going?
What are we doing? Okay, just the two of you?
Sure. Whatever you say. Just those two first.
I mean, you got the blank.
1, 2, 3. You want to grab? Okay.
Sorry.
We'll compare later.
One with start, and one with all three.
Okay, so this one, let's get in front of this. I read it. Okay. This is my favorite part of council meetings.
1, 2, 3. Get everybody.
And then you want to get one with all three.
Let's get the whole council.
One more smile for me.
Yeah, and then we'll get the whole council.
Sorry.
And then one with all council.
Yeah, let's get one with all 5.
All the council. Yeah. Now we've got the whole group here.
Okay, back to the 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so let's. All right, let's now recess and enjoy a reception out here for 15 minutes. agenda.
Are you out of order? 1404.
Transit-oriented development.
Yeah, but where, we did that, boards and commissions.
And under mayor.
I just want to see what communications is.
Her paperwork's like
Oh,
way
it's
different
way
than
down there. Okay. We will reconvene our city council meeting, resume our city council meeting with discussion on the proposed transit-oriented development project at the Wilsonville Transit Center. And the council has discussed this numerous times over the last year or more. And I would now like our city attorney to give us a brief recap, and also, if you could state a motion that's a relatively technical motion for this particular thing. So that's why we'd appreciate you doing that for us.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Amanda Guile-Hinman, City Attorney. So the city engaged in a two-phase competitive selection process for the transit-oriented development project, wherein the city first published a request for qualifications, and those qualified respondents then had the opportunity to respond to a more specific request for proposals. Pursuant to ORS 221.729, staff seeks council approval of one of the proposers as the successful proposer for this transit-oriented development project. So the motion would be, I move that council approve developer as the successful proposer for the transit-oriented development project. And I'm happy to repeat that too.
Thank you. So I would like to ask for a motion to that effect, and stating the developer, well, fill in the motion, basically. So, Councilor West.
Your Honor, I move, help me, to approve the palindrome
As the successful proposal.
as the successful proposal for the transit-oriented development plan project.
You got it.
There. That was, you would thought I had never done that before, but that's.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you. The motion's been moved and seconded, and this is a time for discussion. I would like to, I'll make a comment here and say that we've discussed this and studied it for, I think, well over a year, looking at ways to take the best advantage of funding that would enable construction of a really the best type of housing that we could come up with. We've talked about a lot of different models here to be built at near the West Station, and it's a category of housing called transit-oriented development, as we've discussed it. Gives people, and it's for low-income housing. It's for people who are making no more than 60% of the area median income. And the idea is that as part of our equitable strategic housing plan that the council adopted in 2020 to address the gaps in our housing and find ways for people to live in Wilsonville, work in Wilsonville, and be able to commute to jobs and have great places to live. This particular development that we're looking at would have about, I believe, 121 units, rental units, and they are subsidized through these various financing mechanisms that we have studied and identified with this developer is the best way to go. And we'll have lots more chance to work on this, but we have identified in this motion the developer that we thought would do the best. It includes it would make use of $1.9 million in funding that Representative Courtney Neron secured in the last legislative session. And on that ground floor, the plan that we are looking at includes having a some very attractive, some options that are really attractive and fun for the whole community, for people who would be riding their bikes, getting on the West, going to Portland, going to Beaverton, people who may be going to the West Station and heading off on a bus to a different location to the south, various things like that. This particular developer has a focus on bicycle commuting, so there's storage of bicycles. The concept is possibly to have a bike repair shop, so it's got a kind of a commuting bike focus. Also has parking, of course. It aligns the parking with the TriMet parking lot. There's a financial arrangement there so that the residents can make use of that. There's also a plan for a gathering place on the lower floor in this the main floor that I described that would be, sounds very appealing to the community based on the other projects this developer has done, including a coffee house, a tap house. They've done these in many other locations, and I think, to me, and I think I heard other councilors say that it really attracted the use of everybody. So this is a really a great example of integrating a cost of housing that is affordable to people who could not afford other housing, and it's a very nice, appealing, well-managed building. And of course, they have access to all of that transit as well. So that I probably went on too long there, but that's the general description of that, and this motion is just allowing us to continue into quite a bit more work on the details. Any other comments? Councilor Linville.
Thank you. I wanted to thank all of the developers that submitted proposals, RFPs for this project. I believe that the developer selected in this motion best meets the vision of what was laid out in the Equitable Housing Strategic Plan, as well as some of our discussions.
Thank you, and I'm glad you mentioned that about the other applications, because they really had a lot of great concepts in them as well. Councilor West.
Gosh, it's kind of surreal. I had the honor of chairing the Equitable Housing Task Force here in Wilsonville, and then on my last meeting, we get to make a meaningful motion to advance that vision forward that happened just a couple years ago, and so many of us have been involved in this whole process. Everybody worked collaboratively, so I'm really excited by this. I think it's in the right space in the city. I think it's strategically positioned, and I was really impressed with the overall vision, innovation, and creativity of Pellegrom, who we ultimately selected. So I'm excited to see how this moves forward, and I know that the future council starting next year has their work cut out for them, but it's a really exciting time for our city.
Thank you. Council President Ockervall.
Yes, thank you. I agree. This is exciting. It is an exciting project, and I appreciated Palindrome's proposal to really draw others to the TOD or that area within our city. We've talked many times on council how very proud we are of SMART. So it seems exciting that we will get to share this area and the services that are provided by SMART with a wider audience through this as well. I do look forward to having further information on the culturally specific partner that will be identified for this project, as I think that is an important piece. So exciting things to come.
Thanks for bringing that up as well. Councilor Lehan.
I really don't have anything to add. I think everything has been said. As was said, there were 3 projects that each had different aspects that were excellent, but Palindrome seemed to meet our needs better than the others.
Thank you. And being the originator of Tree City USA, you just reminded me, Councilor Lehan, that we did want to make note that the way that trees are planted and incorporated in that area as the developer, we're going to just make note of that, is really important. Anything else?
Just make one more comment.
Please.
I think as we move forward, this, one of the key things that I think needs to be discussed with the developer is the need for our SMART and Wilsonville sharing to have rent-free space in that building.
Yes.
For the life of their needs.
Thank you for bringing that up. So reinforcing the importance of rent-free, long-term, if not indefinite space for Wilsonville community sharing to be located in that building, as well as a transit center for SMART, which really is a way for people to, they would learn about all of the transit options in the area, not just SMART. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the social gathering place that has shown success in other places. Anything else that we wanted to reinforce? Okay. Well, if there's no further discussion, I will call for the vote on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 5-0. So we'll now move to the, this is still under mayor's business. We are doing another round of appointments to the boards and commissions, and been a lot of people to talk to. We have such great interest in these positions. I always try to explain to each person that there are a lot of people interested each time, so I often have people on a waiting list, and after a year, we ask people if they want to still be considered, please reapply, because we always look at appointments that are 12 months and newer. And so we're really lucky to have the level of interest that we do. And I would like to ask Council President Ockervall to lead the motions. And this follows, we did appoint several people at our December 5th meeting, and this is the second batch of them. And I do have a couple of more to make coming up, so it's not over yet.
Well, it's great that we have such involvement because these lists are long.
Right.
So nice that we can break it up a little. First one, I move to ratify the appointment of Megan Chenard and Justin Brown to the Development Review Board for a term beginning January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0.
I move to ratify the reappointment of Erica Pham and Luis Gonzalez to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for a term beginning January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2025.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0.
I move to ratify the appointment of Carla Brashear to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for a term beginning January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2025.
I'll second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
I move to ratify the appointment of George Luo and Asha Patel to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for a term beginning January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023.
I'll second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 The motion passes 5-0.
I move to ratify the reappointment of Amanda Aird to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for a term beginning January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2026.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. And now for our last one.
I move to ratify the appointment of Catherine Neal to the Planning Commission for a term beginning January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. And To conclude the mayor's business, which is the longest one in history now tonight, I would like to note that the next meeting of the city council is Thursday, January 4th at 7 p.m. 2020 here in City Hall. We'll now move to the communications section of our agenda, and we will hear from Dan Carlson in our building department.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Dan Carlson. I serve as the city's building official. It's great to be here tonight. I wanted to share with you a project that we've been working on. It's one that has its origins from Councilor Lehan and some recommendations that we heard loud and clear in a previous couple of council meetings, having to do with how can we preserve these structures that are being demolished in the form of photos. And so what we've done is we've taken a swing at a project that really utilizes some technology that we have in place, and it is the beginnings of a project that we hope will be something to honor you and your legacy, but also to really capture some of these really, really neat buildings that we have that sometimes do get demolished to make way for other structures, but to hopefully preserve the memory of those in some form or fashion. So what we've done is just wanted to share with you to start out here that we had heard this, about this idea some time ago, and really wanted to, the first thing we had to do in order to have a requirement was to have code. We had to write code, and you may recall back in 2019, we had a massive code change from our building code. And part of that building code change was to introduce some language to actually add some provisions for capturing photos for demolition permits. And so we did that, became effective January 1st of 2020. And then what we did is, so basically what this does is it requires that any person who obtains a demolition permit to demolish a structure has to submit photos to the building department along with their permit application. And so then what we did is we went forward and we created a policy. And I know you can't read this because way too many words, but in part of this policy is we highlight in detail what is needed for those photos to give a little bit more specificity for developers. So we're requiring at least a minimum of 6 digital photos of a certain resolution. This resolution comes from our IT department and their recommendations. And then we're asking for, some photos that represent different context. And so you can see some of the context that's there. The other thing that we do is we're really trying to provide some direction for staff as we get in these applications in. We want them to actually look at the photos and make sure that they're representative of the structure. You can tell what they are. They're not taken like at night or behind a bush or, having key pictures missing. I've seen that before. And then what we have is we have a staff person who looks at these photos, creates a PDF, and uploads those into our document management system called Laserfish. And so once those are uploaded, then what happens is we're able to take and post those onto this really cool map that we created. Huge props to our IT department, particularly Andy Stone, Beth Wolf, and Dan Stark for their work on this. They were just wonderful to collaborate with on this project. So I'm going to back out of here, but what you can see is you see a bunch of blue buttons. You can see the city boundaries, and then you can see the urban growth boundaries. So the idea is that anything that we have that comes in for a permit application, we may have permit applications for demolition permits like we do now for parcels who are not quite in the city. They haven't been annexed yet. So we want to capture those before they get annexed. So I'm going to stop share right now, and I'm going to go and look at the actual website and show you this. Hopefully this works. I'm doing this live on the fly. Just to show you a couple of dots, because I know that we're short on time, but you may recall the infamous Red Barn. I mean, I remember this Red Barn driving up and down the freeway as a kid, you know, with my parents.
Wondering why it hadn't fallen down yet.
So just the green moss on the top of the, you know, the roof of the barn, it's just so iconic, you know. So I'm trying, honestly, to click on this, and it's not coming up. So
It's not just the buildup.
I should know better than to do this on the fly. But it did work before this, so I promise it does work. I'm just sharing screen and trying to do it through the screen share. So to give you a couple of examples, up here we have the Ellingson property with the barn and a lot of photos for that. We got some great pictures of that. We do have the Red Barn before it was demolished to make way for Marion's Carpet. We also have, you may recall, the Quality Inn that was demolished before we built the Hilton. We have photos of that. I personally took those photos because they were so interesting, and quite a few more. We've got some coming on board in Frog Pond. We've also got an old school here that's in the urban growth boundary that we've managed to capture some photos of that as well. So again, I really want to thank IT for this, their help and their support. Megan Munsterman on my staff is the building staff responsible for creating the PDF and consolidating the photos into something that IT can take and really use. So with that, I'm just really excited to share this with you and hope that you're happy about it, and we certainly welcome feedback. You know, this is just beginning, so.
Councilor Lehan.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I think going forward, this will be, you know, a great resource. I don't know how many cities have something like this. I have thought different times about finding someone even older than me who's lived here a long time, to just drive down Wilsonville Road and record, you know, what they remember used to be there. You know, that there was a service station here, and there was another service station here, and then there were 3 houses right along there, and, you know, that kind of thing, because it's all gone, and or it's changed 2 or 3 times over. But having this, you know, going forward is, I think, is a tremendous resource for historical reasons, but just as a resource for people to see what was there.
Excellent.
So that's a great job, great job.
Thank you, Councilor Lehan, and thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
That's great.
Look forward to seeing more of those, and I always thought I would take time to take more watercolor classes and paint that barn, but I'll have to use your photo as my model. So thank you, Dan, and that brings us to our citizens' input and community announcements. section of our agenda, and we do have one speaker, and I will read the statement that this is an opportunity for visitors to address the City Council on items not on the agenda. It's also a time to address the Council on items that are on the agenda but are not scheduled for a public hearing. Staff and the City Council will make every effort to respond to questions raised during citizen input before tonight's meeting ends, or as quickly as possible thereafter. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And I have a speaker card from Kevin O'Malley, if you'd like to come forward. Either one. Oh, no, she says the podium.
Mayor Fitzgerald, City Councilors, good evening. My name is Kevin O'Malley. I'm the CEO of the Wilsonville Area Chamber of Commerce. I am here on behalf of our Wilsonville Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors to extend our appreciation for and recognition of both Councilor Lehan and Councilor West. Earlier, there was quite a lot of very important recognition for Councilor Lehan and Councilor West. Your Wilsonville Chamber of Commerce would like to add our very big thank you. If you visit our website, you'll see stated plainly in bold letters our vision statement to create and promote economic prosperity for businesses and citizens in the South Metro region. Economic prosperity does not happen by accident. It happened because of your leadership as 2 dedicated elected officials who work together with staff, citizens, and community leaders to make Wilsonville the special place it is. Councilor Lehan, Councilor West, while tonight may be your last City of Wilsonville Council meeting, your legacy of distinguished service is manifested throughout our city and will live on. On behalf of all our Wilsonville businesses and the 20,000 people who have jobs here in our city, we have a simple but very profound bravo. Thank you for your dedicated public service. You have made an important and invaluable difference to the economic prosperity of our citizens. Godspeed, and thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And please extend our appreciation to the rest of the board. All right, that brings us to our consent agenda. If the city attorney will please read the agenda titles, resolutions.
Resolution number 3009, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville adopting the South Metro Area Regional Transit SMART Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan. Resolution number 3014, a resolution adopting the canvass of votes of the November 8, 2022 general election. Resolution number 3026, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing South Metro Area Regional Transit SMART to a renewal of goods and services contract with Optibus Inc. and minutes of the December 5, 2022 City Council meeting.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
Your Honor, I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second, yeah, I'll second.
Has been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. That brings us to continuing business. And if the, do I want you to read this first? I just want to make sure. Okay, I'm going to start by asking the city attorney to read the ordinance to us.
Ordinance number 870, this is a second reading of ordinance number 870, an ordinance of the City of Wilsonville adopting the Frog Pond East and South Master Plan and related comprehensive plan text and map amendments.
I call to order a legislative hearing. City Council.
Mayor, I think you're reading the wrong script.
Oh, I grabbed the wrong. I call to order. No, this is the.
You should have a second reading script up there.
I was just about there.
Oh,
okay. Yeah.
There shouldn't be a hearing on it.
It isn't a legislative hearing.
It is not. It shouldn't say that on the card.
Okay.
It says that. Okay.
I thought we had it all done.
No, there was a fake title at the top, so let me start over. I call to order the Wilsonville City Council second reading on ordinance number 870 as has been read. Does any member of the council have any questions for staff or the city attorney on ordinance number 870? We've talked about this at great length. So hearing no questions, do I have a motion on ordinance number 870 on second reading?
Your Honor, I move to adopt ordinance number 870 on second reading.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I will second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded that we enact ordinance number 870 on second reading. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion or commentary, I hereby ask the city recorder to make a roll call vote. As many are in favor of enactment of the ordinance will, as their names are called, answer aye, and those opposed will answer no. Those who wish to abstain from the vote will answer abstain. The city recorder will now call the roll.
Counselor Linville.
Aye.
Counselor West.
Aye.
Council President Ockervall. Aye. Counselor Lehan.
Aye.
Mayor Fitzgerald.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. So we'll now move to ordinance number 871. If the city attorney will please read it.
This is the second reading of ordinance number 871, an ordinance of the City of Wilsonville amending the comprehensive plan text and areas of special concern map to adopt airport good neighbor policies and designate the Aurora State Airport and surrounding properties as an area of special concern.
I call to order the Wilsonville City Council second reading on ordinance number 871 as has been read. Does any member of the council have any questions for staff or the city attorney on ordinance number 871? Hearing no questions, I ask for a motion on ordinance number 871 on second reading.
Your Honor, I move to adopt ordinance number 871 on second reading.
Do I have a second? Motion's been moved and seconded that we enact ordinance number 871 on second reading. Is there any discussion? Hearing no further discussion or commentary, I hereby ask the city recorder to make a roll call vote. As many of us are in favor of enactment of the ordinance will, as their names are called, answer aye. Those opposed will answer no, and those who wish to abstain from the vote will answer abstain. The city recorder will now call the roll.
Counselor Linville.
Aye.
Counselor West.
Aye.
Council President Ockervall. Aye. Counselor Lehan.
Aye.
Mayor Fitzgerald.
Aye. The motion passes 5-0. We'll now move to our public hearing section of our agenda. Ask the city attorney to read resolution number 3016.
Resolution number 3016, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing a supplemental budget adjustment for fiscal year 2022-23.
Thank you. Tonight, we will have a public hearing to consider resolution number 3016. The order of procedure for tonight's hearing is set out in detail in our city code. In brief, we will start with a staff report. Next, the public will be asked to provide testimony. I will ask everyone who signed up in advance to testify first in the order in which they signed up. Then I will ask if anyone present in council chambers would like to testify. Then I will ask anyone who is on the Zoom meeting who has not testified but would like to testify to do so. For those in the audience, please fill out a speaker card and provide it to the city recorder. For those on Zoom, if you want to provide public testimony remotely during this meeting, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or press *9 on your telephone to notify the city recorder you wish to speak when the time for public testimony is called. If you are having difficulties with these instructions, you may call 1-669-900-6833 and when prompted, enter webinar ID number 815-3605-6468. Both numbers are shown on the screen. Once the city council has heard from everyone and the city council is satisfied it has all the information it needs to render a decision, the public hearing will be closed, council deliberates, and I will announce the result. We wish to hear from everyone and the city council is satisfied and it has all the information it needs to render a decision. The public hearing will be closed. Council deliberates, and I will announce the result. We wish to, public testimony will be limited to 3 minutes. We will time the testimony and provide you with a visual warning when there is 1 minute remaining. The public hearing is now open, and Catherine Smith will provide the staff's presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Catherine Smith, the city's Assistant Finance Director. Before you this evening is a budget supplemental. Notice of this public hearing was published in the Wilsonville Spokesman on December 14th. The total budget supplemental is for $244,000. The majority of this is outlined in your council packet is for either unforeseen price increases and or equipment needs, including increased vehicle costs for facilities and park maintenance, wastewater treatment plant equipment, and various capital improvement projects as outlined in your council packet. Included also in the budget supplemental is a request to increase the currently vacant outreach librarian position. The increase from 24 to 40 scheduled hours per week ensures the incumbent is able to dedicate sufficient time to maximizing the outreach of the library services, specifically to underserved populations. Additional supporting detail is included in the staff report within your council packet, and that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Smith? Oh, Councilor Linville?
Was the position in our packet?
Yes.
It was?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is item number 2.
Oh, yes.
In the executive summary.
It is. I'm sorry. I was looking for it after the capital improvements, but thank you.
Okay. Do we have anyone who has signed up for public testimony? Do we have anyone on Zoom? Does any counselor need anything clarified? Since we don't have any testimony, I don't see any questions. Since there are no questions and I see no further testimony coming on issues that warrant discussion, and no further questions, and everyone, we have had no one come forward to testify, I hereby declare the public hearing closed at 8:46 p.m. It is now time for the council to consider Resolution 3016. Do I have a motion?
Your Honor, I move that we approve resolution number 3016.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded. It's been moved by Councilor Lehan and seconded by Councilor West to approve resolution number 3016. I'll ask again if you have any interest or things to discuss regarding this. There are lots of chances to ask. Hearing no further discussion or commentary, I will call for a vote on the motion. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. That brings us to city manager's business.
I just would like to echo the sentiments of everyone else that truly appreciated working with both of you. I think, Charlotte, when it comes to the history of Wilsonville the last 30 years, that your name will loom large. So I've already gone through the litany of things you've been involved in, including this building here. I believe you had a hand in, so.
Yeah, that's right, Bill. That's right. built this building.
And Ben, I look forward to continuing our conversations, and it's been a joy working with you as well. So I look forward to continue advocating for the project up the road here.
There we go. That's an important one. That's an important one.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Any legal business?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The City of Aurora, Joseph Schaefer, 1,000 Friends and Friends of French Prairie previously filed lawsuits against the Oregon Department of Aviation and the Oregon State Aviation Board for violations of the Oregon Administrative Procedures Act. The Marion County Circuit Court dismissed those cases. Each of the parties have filed an appeal of the trial court's decision. Wilsonville is not a party to these lawsuits, but does have the opportunity to file an amicus brief in these appeals. While there is a pending motion to consolidate the appeals, staff will request that council authorize filing an amicus brief in each separate appeal in the event that the cases are not consolidated. As such, staff seeks a motion to authorize the city attorney to file an amicus brief in Oregon Court of Appeals cases numbered A179661, A179649, and A179634.
I didn't write those down.
I didn't write them down.
Councilors, as we just heard from our city attorney, we have an opportunity to file an amicus brief on this matter that we just heard described by our city attorney. I'm not going to re-list out all of the numbers and technical descriptions. I would like to ask if I could have a motion to file that brief, please.
Your Honor, I move to file an amicus brief on the three matters that were just described by the city attorney. They were A179 something something and A17 and some other numbers. Three things she just mentioned.
Thank you.
I stated on the record, so I think
It's on the record.
As read. Do I have a second to that motion accepting the motion as read?
I'll second the motion.
The motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. The meeting is adjourned at 8:50 p.m. And by the way, that's just what it says on here, 8:50.
Goodbye.